what are the similarities you've seen from other teams that have had state success, and especially even that state championship team, that relates to where you are here in 2025?
I think it comes down to consistency and just having a well-rounded team. I definitely feel like, there's times where you might only be able to have a single block. Well, we have enough height and athletic ability to put up a double block. Just some of those fine details that you really need to have a successful program is, just being able to have the speed on the team, the athletes, the athletic abilities. And Overton's been fortunate to be able to have those student athletes come through Overton. So we just help to kind of stay grounded, control what we can on our side of the court, and kind of make things happen.
Welcome back to Small Town Ball, a production of Hurrdat Sports and NEB Preps. I'm Austin Jacobsen. We are now joined by Overton Volleyball head coach Hayley Ryan. And coach, really great to see you. I kind of passed by the Overton program when I was in Central Nebraska, was able to cover your guys' state tournament run in 2023. What a fantastic program and tenure that you've had there in Overton. Really happy to have you on the show, especially in the midst of such a great season you guys are in the middle of.
Thanks for taking the time to cover Overton. It has been a great run, a lot of success in the last few years, and a lot of success even in years prior. So, it's just been a nice run, a nice bunch of girls that we've had come through Overton, and really enjoy being at the school.
A lot of people would argue Overton, despite, being the smallest town in Dawson County, you guys are kind of maybe the program to beat in Dawson County. You guys have kind of been the number one school for the past couple of years.
I think we've kind of built a tradition of putting ourselves on the map a little bit, just being able to make it down to the state tournament and playing some tough competition and being able to get some close wins and battle it out with some tough teams. So, it's nice to see our girls be able to do that. I know several of these teams, we're fortunate we get to start in about third grade. Cozad has a nice little league over there that we get involved with. And then they play through that through sixth grade. And then just the buy-in from the parents and just, I guess the girls, you just watch them grow up and love the sport. And some of those classes are a little bit bigger classes. So once you get the buy-in and everybody's wants to be on the court and wants to play together and they just kind of build that love of volleyball, it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, I want to ask you just about kind of the start when you took over for Overton and how kind of this build has happened, because 6 straight seasons going to state since 2019. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And obviously you want to keep that streak rolling here too. How do you continue to find success and not only find athletes that want to keep coming out for volleyball, but continue to keep that high standard? Because you're not just getting to state, you guys are getting deep into state and winning matches and playing for state championships.
I do think that the girls see this at a young age and they're able to watch these girls grow up. And then once they get a little bit of taste of it, I feel like they go a little, they get a little bit stronger and they're willing to put in the time that it takes to get better. I just remember when I first came in 25 years ago, it was a little hard because I was like, when can I get these girls to come in? Like I'm trying nights. I'm like, okay, nights aren't working. There's softball. And I'm like, when is a decent time? And then I feel like the more I got established here, I kind of designated my day, and then it was a little bit better just to get them coming in for open gym, getting them to buy in. And then I do feel like just what some of the coaches that have kind of helped establish the weight training program and just the leagues that we have access to, and being kind of centrally located where we're close to Kearney, close to a bunch of clubs. I just feel like, that you can't do just the same thing that every other kiddo is doing and expect to see greater results. So I just feel like our girls have been able to put the time in, play the club ball, get some really great coaching along the way. And it's just been exciting to watch the program grow, watch the girls grow, and just see kind of the sparkle in their eye when they come out and get on the court and feel good about what they're doing.
When was that turning point for you as just a coach, knowing that the program had taken that next step forward? Was it a match? Was it just a certain summer of off season? Was it something else entirely? Did you notice that there was kind of a key moment over these past really decade or even further beyond of what it could have been?
I feel like Overton has always had some solid teams. I do feel like once I should say, I feel like once the NSAA took the change of, they took the top 16, and it wasn't like we had some tough sub districts in the past. And, once just getting over the hump of getting to state and being able to see that, okay, hey, we can not only get to state, we can do something at state. I feel like, sometimes you go through years and years and years, and it's like you'll get into sub districts and, you'll end up losing and you're out. But once they could go ahead and work through sub districts and get to district finals, I feel like that was a turning point also. But I do feel like as the seasons have come and go, the girls really are, when they get in those tougher situations, they're able to push through.
I think a lot of people don't understand from the statewide perspective, kind of what your conversation is before you guys went on this run, and kind of what Overton is right now is that Central Nebraska, especially at your guys' the Class D level in the Fort Kearney Conference, that's such a competitive area of volleyball. And just in that little niche role, whether you're just between, Gothenburg all the way to Grand Island and south all the way to Alma to the border, I mean, that is a lot of talented volleyball teams and a lot of great teams that haven't always gotten their chance to be able to get to the state tournament, tournament just in terms of beating the teams that they need to, like you had mentioned. It's such a deep field, especially across all those classes. How do you stay competitive in that sense when the environment around you is uber talented and everyone is good and everyone's especially gunning for you, especially over these past few years?
Yeah, sometimes, you kind of feel like you get a target put on you a little bit with, a lot of teams kind of coming out and giving you their best. And so, it's just at that point that you have to realize you don't get to take too many games off if you want to stay competitive. We have had some close games and some games that maybe we shouldn't have been so close, but just with the experience and the talent and just especially like this year, we have the senior leadership where, these girls kind of were on the championship team. And so they were always kind of second, several of them had been second string. So they've been playing at a competitive level for years. So, getting their chance last year to take the court. And then now this being their senior year, I feel like we have a lot of senior leadership on the team, but it's just been, it's been exciting to be able to make it down to Lincoln and play competitively and just being able to, win some games and see some success down there.
How does your team handle the different levels of expectation to success? Because once you win a state title, you get to state title matches, you're in the state tournament year in and year out, you're kind of expected to be there. Does that change kind of how the team prepares through the summer and off seasons and in other sports? Sometimes that can be really difficult to be able to handle all of these championship aspirations when it comes to other aspects, either whether it's in volleyball season or outside of it.
Yeah, I think that, I guess this year our biggest challenge has been just being able to stay healthy. We've had some girls that have really traveled and put the time in. But I do see that we've had a lot of situations that come up. I mean, just for example, we played Southwest and they're having a great season. And our setter ended up going out because she wasn't feeling good. And so, mom rushes her to the hospital and takes her in, and being able to, we have a backup and we have more depth this year. So we had, freshman, sophomore, a couple young players out there, and just being able to come in and fulfill their role and still being able to beat some really tough teams is nice to know that, if somebody can't get the job done or, we always have, somebody else that we can turn to, and just that added depth this year is really good. But just, I do think that, it is another level when you have to kind of maintain that. And, I just see that in these girls that just, I feel like the ball control that we have and the way they come into practice, I feel like the tone is set to where, we don't have to hound them anymore, where they're diving after balls and making huge plays. Sometimes we're seeing the extra injuries because of it, but I feel like that is something that, that the upperclassmen has kind of set the tone of, like, we just don't let balls drop. We got to give an extra, 10, 20%. So we're not letting up in our play when it comes to practice, so that the girls are just know that they're that much more prepared for the games.
And I know you mentioned a little bit, just like right there, just talking about getting prepared for the games. And when you're at a school like Overton and a program like Overton, you're not going to have the levels of depth that a Class A, B, or even C1 team has. And I remember talking with Coach Radka before the season started about Minden and how, they start to build that depth, and they were going to have a lot of turnover this year. Obviously, they're performing really well this season. But for a town community like Overton, that has to just put extra pressure on you as a coach and maybe the rest of your coaching staff, and then the youth development that you have, because you only have limited windows to be able to continue to build the depth when you have those classes overturned. They don't last as long. It feels like you have to be able to, like you said, in a moment's notice, be able to ask someone to step up and be the same type of level player that the starter is.
Absolutely. You know, even some of our youth programs, it's really nice when we get to see, you know, the parents take on the roles and take over programs and being able to, you know, step out and know that it's still in a good position. So yeah, I feel like the parents have really helped out along the way. And I think they've seen the success and the excitement that the town has, and that when the community comes together, when everybody gets to go down to Lincoln and, you know, they get to have a homecoming for us, you know, with the sirens and bringing the whole town together. And there's nothing more exciting than seeing just, you know, the whole town light up for something like this.
Yeah, the Overton gym, I've been there a couple of times for some basketball matches or basketball games, and the volleyball matches there. They are fantastic. I mean, it's one of the best environments you can get, especially in that area. The community buy-in for your program too. I mean, obviously helping or winning helps that sort of success and builds that type of atmosphere. But you've got a lot of people that just come to matches just to hang out. It's really kind of unique what Overton has, especially with a program that's been successful, but also people are knowledgeable and want to just watch your team perform.
Yeah, it is kind of fun when you kind of see some people that you're like, oh, you kept an eye on the game, or, you know, when the girls, you know, they're saying things to our girls where I think the girls are kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of nice to be, you know, get that extra recognition, or, you know, get those extra words from some of the community, or even somebody maybe not necessarily in our community. But I think, you know, small towns, they all kind of keep an eye on each other and what's happening and who's winning and what's going on. So, you know, it's just kind of a different feel. I came from North Platte, bigger town. You didn't know everybody from all the, you know, other towns around, you know, because you were traveling so far. But it's just a different feel where, you know, you feel like you know each community. I mean, you're 8 miles down the road, or, you know, 15 miles down the road. Everybody kind of knows each other. So it's kind of an exciting time just to kind of see how, you know, the different conference schools are doing, and just how everybody's kind of getting really competitive and wants to compete, and, you know, just makes the conference that much more exciting when we get to play these surrounding schools.
So we were talking before we started about, you know, a little bit about my background. Obviously, I've kind of known you a little bit in passing just through the different places that I've worked, but it used to be such a big deal. And I'm sure it still is when, you know, the radio station's coming to your games, right? That you get to hear Jason Jorgensen or Doug Duda, or, you know, whoever is going to be coming down to be able to broadcast that game. Now we've got streams, we've got different availability that people can watch the games. I mean, how big of a deal is it too that when you have a program that's had the success you've had, that more eyes want to be on the program? I'm sure you've had plenty of parents since you started this run in 2019 that have been like, hey, grandma wants to watch this game on YouTube. Like, how do we get this game up? Like, who's coming to the game? How do we broadcast it? Is that like another layer for you that you're like, okay, we got to deal with these other things now that we're being a winning team?
It is nice. I mean, it's, you know, our athletic director does a nice job of making sure everything's set up, ready to go. But there is a lot of community members where it's, you know, friends of friends, or, you know, friends of the players that are on, or, you know, family members that normally wouldn't be able to be at every game. But, you know, somebody that would have to travel, just be able to kind of see how the team is going, and be able to interact and kind of see and follow the team. I feel like it's a really nice asset to volleyball, and just to athletics all over, to be able to share that with everybody around.
All right, Coach, let's talk a little bit about your team. Obviously, I really appreciate you doing this on a Tuesday night when you've got, I believe, some matches going on tonight, don't you? I think you're at is it the Giltner Triangular tonight?
Yeah, Giltner and Shelton. So it'll be another tough night for us. That's for sure.
Well, we appreciate you doing this before you have to get on the road and obviously coach your team. But you're 16-1 as you enter Tuesday night at the end of September. You've lost only one match all season, and that was a 5-setter to Amherst. But this team feels like it's got a lot of the same vibes as you did just a couple of years ago when you took a D2 title. You're in a different class in D1 this season, but what are the similarities you've seen from other teams that have had state success, and especially even that state championship team, that relates to where you are here in 2025?
I think it comes down to consistency and just having a well-rounded team. I definitely feel like, you know, there's times where you might only be able to have a single block. Well, we have enough height and athletic ability to put up a double block. You know, just some of those fine details that you really need to have a successful program is, just being able to have the speed on the team, the athletes, the athletic abilities. And Overton's been fortunate to be able to have those student athletes come through Overton. And just, I do feel like there's a lot of competition, a lot of great teams out there. We'll see Southwest again this week. So, like you said, we'll have Kearney Catholic down the road, but we'll have conference coming up too. Ansley Litchfield has been having a great season. So a lot of tough competition down the road. So we just help to kind of stay grounded, control what we can on our side of the court, and kind of make things happen.
Yeah, and I'm curious as to why. I don't know how the scheduling works for you in volleyball, if you get a direct say with the athletic director, if you get to, be a part of those conversations directly. But you don't have to travel very far if you're Overton to play some great teams. And even in your own class, I mean, you can go down to Loomis, you can go to Amherst, you can play Elm Creek, you can play all of these schools that are relatively the same size as Overton. But you choose to go out and play a Class C1 program in Kearney Catholic. That has been no slouch over the past few years and over the past really a long tenure. Why is it so important that you send your team, even in this season, the very last regular season game, to Kearney Catholic to play the Stars and to look up at competition that comes from a larger community than yours?
I think you always want to challenge your team. Sometimes you kind of wonder, okay, how's it going to go? Are we going to compete? How competitive is it going to be? Because when you switch classes, I mean, obviously we're playing more competition at our level in the Class maybe D area, maybe some C2 teams. I mean, we played Chase County, which they're C1, I think C1. And so just we don't see that level or that gap, I guess, in that much. But I do feel like it's nice going into districts too and sub-districts just to be able to have, some tough games. You just hope that your team can kind of recoup, stay maintained and keep that composure, and play their game. I'm like, I don't care really, honestly, if we win or lose. We have nothing to lose. Maybe they have a little bit to lose by play when we were D2 and, they were C1, things like that. But I just tell them, I'm like, go out and compete, like go out and just, play your game, shine, do what you can do. And I feel like the girls have been able to do that. I think we've been able to get some sets. We did beat, I think, Kearney Catholic a few years ago, but just to compete and compete at a tough level. I think that our girls have, had that composure and stayed and maintained their level of play. So that's kind of all you can ask for as a coach.
Well, and on that same note, too, it's kind of a notch in Overton's belt as well, because Kearney Catholic doesn't have to say yes to scheduling you. I mean, they clearly see you as like a competitive opponent that helps them, whether it's, through the PowerPoints or whether it's through the competition level. That has to feel like a nice pat on the back as well, knowing that, hey, we're coming back here every single year. We want to play you guys because we see you guys as equals to where we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. I mean, we have had actually several girls on the Kearney Catholic team play club ball with our girls, and so they played together. They have that connection. They kind of know what to expect from each other a little bit. So, but Kearney Catholic always has a little bit more depth and things like that. So, and a little more height that I'm like, where did that come from? But anyway, at a bigger school, you'll probably get those kinds of things. So, but yeah, it's exciting. It's always a fun time to go compete with them. So yeah, we're just excited to see where the rest of the season goes.
Coach, how tough has it been this year with that target just getting bigger and bigger every single season? I mean, every year that you guys continue to have a little bit more success, another state tournament run, getting to the state championship games, whatever it looks like, it seems like that target for Overton just gets larger and larger and larger. And at some point, it's going to envelop the entire town. But do you feel that pressure when teams come to Overton, when you're on the road, that I know you talked a little bit about it, that it's kind of everybody's Super Bowl. They're kind of getting up to be able to play you.
Well, it's just one of those nights where if somebody can't step up or somebody, like, you can't have your whole team off or have an off night on the same night. So as we did have probably one game this season, we're like, all right, who's going to step it up? Like maybe we just need to take a deep breath because maybe things weren't going our way. So but it is nice to see like that we have had other players step up, or we can mix things up, or we can, try a different rotation to get out of something. We always have plan A and plan B. If something doesn't work, we always kind of change things up or mix things up a little bit. And I feel like with our team, we're able to kind of move the ball around quite a bit. We do have go-to hitters, but I also feel like we can also depend on our other hitters to be able to make big plays in the game.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of those hitters and those key stats that you have, because you've got one of the top hitters on the team in the state, in Daisy Ryan, obviously, and I'm sure you know her pretty well outside of just the team. But what makes her play so significant and just puts her kind of head and shoulders above some of the other competitors that you face, especially from her counterparts when she's going up against some of the others that you'll see in your conference or in the class?
I'd have to say Daisy plays calm, which really helps. She doesn't get rattled, and her ball control is really good. Daisy has a lot of experience. She grew up in the gym, coach's daughter, grew up in the gym. I remember at third grade, she was like, "Hey mom, I don't really want to student manage. I want to go home and feed the chickens," because she got chickens, And I'm like, "Oh God, I hope she changes her mind and really starts to like volleyball more than other things." But no, Daisy is just really after, she just kind of took off and has grown to really love volleyball. And anytime she can play, whether it's sand, whether it's club, she's always getting a hand on the ball. And between her friends and her sister's friends and her brother's friends, there's just it's kind of a volleyball family. So Daisy, she and the other thing is she just really goes in and she sees the court well. So she doesn't always have to hit, but she moves the ball well on her tips. She can see open places on the court, and she can move her hit. So I feel like all those little things help. She has a pretty aggressive jump serve, which I feel like our team as a whole has been really solid about being able to place the ball and make those plays. But yeah, it was a dream come true to watch my girls play together and be able to win the state championship. So that was, just on a personal note, that was, something that, as a parent and a coach, when you've spent that many years in the gym and to be able to share that with your family and your daughters, that's really an important time.
So when you look at that 2023 team, obviously it's what can we do to get back to that state championship match, to win a state championship, lift a trophy, and bring it back to Overton. Jolie had a running partner in that entire season, and it looks like you have another one, Grayson Hughes, too, for this season. How does she kind of complement the rest of the team, and especially what Daisy does so well?
Yeah, absolutely. They complement each other very well. Grayson is another go-to hitter, and she's a game changer. If she can get the kills, we're rolling. We can really put a gap in the score. So it's just those times that we have to work through when maybe things aren't going our way, or we really have to work to find the holes or find the court, because we have played some pretty scrappy teams. So and we talked to Grayson a lot about like just all the time getting that big approach and seeing the court or what's open. And she's really come around for us. So I couldn't be more proud of Grayson and just the way she's developed as a player and being able to, be that player for us on this team.
You lost 7 sets so far this season, obviously knock on wood because you're on triangular tonight. But you've played 2 5-set matches. One was a win over Cambridge, which was an excellent victory. They're a phenomenal program too. The other, a loss to Amherst. What did you learn in those contests that you hope kind of builds that championship medal for your team?
I think it's nice to be able to be in some of those 5-set matches. Not that you always want to be in those 5-set matches, but, to be able to have those before the end of the season or before it gets a little bit later in case you need that experience. We all know anything can happen in a 5-set match in that 5th set. We had game point against Amherst, and, we got to finish, right? We got to find a way to finish. So, but then the 5th set got away from us against Amherst. I definitely think we competed back and forth with both teams quite a bit. But you like to be in those situations, and you like to be able to, see how you can grow as a team. And I just feel like, there's always little things that you can do to grow and be able to read the ball a little bit better. And, we've had a couple of our players out just that maybe started the season just with injuries and things like that. So we just like to see our whole team back and everybody healthy so that we can finish the season like we can.
And like you mentioned, finishing the season, obviously a big part of it. You're first right now in Class D1 in power points, but it's kind of hard to keep those because obviously you've got another team trailing you in Amherst. But the power points, I'm sure, don't really matter all that much as long as you're in that kind of top category. What's kind of your thoughts and feelings on how they've changed some of this postseason and how it goes? Not that Overton's truthfully really been affected by it. You guys get to host very often. That's the luxury of being a winning program like yourself. But do you see it a little bit differently now that you've had a couple of years to kind of adjust to it? Or what's your opinion on how the changes have come?
I really like the change, just for the fact that if 1 and 4 is in the same sub district, or and usually you would get in the past you would have gotten a wild card, but it was probably for the teams that were like in your top 16, but it couldn't get past that sub district because it was like you had to win all those games. But at least now your top 16 teams are getting that opportunity to be in there. So that's why you always want to have a really good season. To be able to set yourselves up for success at the end of the season. But you just got to keep growing throughout the season and can't get content and where you're at with things. So I feel like that's really important, just to kind of keep your goal in sight and be able to, keep working for those goals.
And of course, you make a great argument too, because I'm sure you've been to many FKC tournaments or some of those triangulars over the years that you face a team and you look across and you say, that's a high quality team, but because they didn't beat X, Y, or Z team during the regular season, they're going to get a terrible sub-district draw and their season's going to be over because they're going to have to play a 1 seed or a 2 seed. That's very good. We've seen that really across Central Nebraska the past couple of years.
Yeah, we were pretty fortunate. The last couple of years where, if you can be in the top 5 or 6, at the end of the season, you're getting that, probably 10 through 16 seed or pick up, so we've had some, everybody comes out at the end of the season because they know that, if they're not winning, they're out. Right. So, it just keeps the competition really high and you just got to come out to play each and every game.
How important is home court advantage for you guys? It's easy to say, it's coach speak, you don't want to lose at home. It's better to be here, all that sort of stuff. But is there a significant advantage for your Overton Eagles as you prepare for home contests and when you get into the postseason, you want to keep things closer to home?
I think that we enjoy being home. It's fun and exciting to get the, home court advantage because I feel like our crowd and our community come out to support us, which is really exciting for the girls. But, on the other hand, we always try to focus on the things that we can control. And, some of those things are out of our control. So we just try not to focus on, anything that might be a distraction, or, if we don't get something or something doesn't work out for us, we just try to focus on, what is in our control and how we play our game.
All right, Coach, I'll ask you just a couple more and we'll let you go because obviously we know you got a long road trip to be able to go to this afternoon. But do you want to ask about Daisy? How motivated is she to try to beat out her sister's accolades and what she had going? Because, that would be a great Thanksgiving conversation, I'm sure, when she comes back from Wayne State to look across the table and say, I even did it without you, if she can get to where she needs to go in November.
Yeah. I don't know that she really is like setting out to beat her sister, but they're kind of, Daisy has kind of been beating out in other areas, I guess, but I guess I haven't really compared the two in that area. I try not to focus on like all the stats and, things like that, which, I'm sure her sister would be disappointed if she did beat her out. However, I always feel like teams are very different. One team, can have a great digger and the other team can have another good digger. But like, if you go a 5-set match, you're going to set records. You're going to, those are the, things that are going to happen. So just to be able to have that ability where you rally back and forth and you do those things. And, sometimes that ups your stats, sometimes it doesn't. But, I just feel like they focus on just what they can do and they don't get too hung up on all the little other things that can be, that distraction. Because I feel like sometimes even when you get back there to serve, like the more you're trying to go for something, the more you're like in your head about it. Right. So we try to just focus on just the here and now and what's happening. So yeah, it's been fun for the two girls to get to play together and compete and both have their own time. And so it was nice to see Daisy have her own time. She was kind of, the freshman, sophomore with the older sisters and that large senior group that was so good. And so be able to see the senior class get their own moments and their own times has been really exciting.
You did a great job there as a mom and as a coach, just playing neutral. Like no one gained any advantage. No one had anything there. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. I'll leave you on this one. Obviously, I like to ask this to a lot of the coaches that come on, but you've had plenty of trips and travels over the past couple of years. Some of them pretty close. Some of them maybe a little bit further, and especially for camps. I know you talk about some of the clubs and everything else that you get to go to. Let's stick to the high school season. I want to know your favorite type of road trip. You can't say Lincoln. You can't say state volleyball. Can't say the Bob. I can't give you that venue. But do you have a favorite place in the FKC or somewhere in Dawson County or somewhere that you've played that maybe every year you're not excited maybe about the opponent, you maybe are dreading facing whoever you're going to play, but the environment or the trip there or something like that just brings good memories? Is there a specific one you can think of?
Well, I would say maybe Kearney Catholic, because it's always, second round of FKC. And then we go to Kearney High, and we've played, in that environment. So just somewhere that's a little bit different, but to be able to capture, because we've had a 3-peat and now a 4-peat with our conference championships. We've had a lot of success in our conference. So, conference has really grown to be a big deal. The girls all get pumped and fired up for it. So I guess if you were going to ask me where we really enjoy going, it would just be, we've been fortunate to get kind of the home setting and the being able to host in first round of FKC. So that's been really nice, but just being able to, see the community and all the communities with our conference come out and support the play. And sometimes, again, it's your conference, so it doesn't mean they have to have a team playing, but the gym fills up. So if small towns, it's kind of exciting to see, because, you got Kearney where it's, 27,000 people in that town, where you have the smaller town where it's 600, 800, and to be able to fill a gym like that and just see the community support has been really exciting.
What do we have to do to get FKC back to the Viero Center? I always love that environment. I know they did some basketball and stuff there too, but did they ever do volleyball? Because that was always a great time.
Well, they did do basketball. I was trying to think back. We used to do volleyball. I remember playing in Will Hill in one of our runs in conference. And I mean, it was back and forth. And I think we were playing Axtell, and it was an amazing night. But, at the time they had like 3 or 4 rows of bleachers, and there just wasn't the room. The place was packed. There's no way to get in and out. And so, some of those times where I was like, oh my gosh, we obviously need more seating. So of course these have moved to bigger venues where they're like, hey, like these are exciting games. People want to be able to be there, and they want to be able to have seats and be comfortable too. So, I don't know. I feel like, it's moved to a little bit bigger venues, but, basketball was over there at Viero, and I don't know all the, details on, why everything's moved. I think they kind of like the atmosphere where the gym's packed and kind of on top of you. So that's kind of exciting. But, we've been pretty fortunate to be able to get the venues that we've got. So we're pretty happy with that.
Coach, I want to make sure I get you out on this, but I have 1,000 more questions, so I will definitely have to hit you up again. I look forward to seeing your team down in Lincoln when we're out for state volleyball coverage. But best of luck to your team, not only tonight, but also through the rest of the season, and of course in the postseason, which is less than a month away. I mean, it's crazy how quickly we get through this.
I know, that's what I keep thinking. I'm like, less than 2 months, and I'm sure it's even less than that now, because that was just a thought running through my head a while ago. But yeah, thanks, Austin. We really appreciate you covering Overton, and it's just been an exciting time for us here.
Absolutely. So that was head coach Hayley Ryan of Overton Volleyball. If you're checking out more, they do have their Twitter page at Overton Eagles, as well as I think you do have an Overton Volleyball page too. It's Overton VB.
Yep. And we have Twitter. Yep. Twitter too. So.
Okay, perfect. See, I still remember all the social handles. I remember all those. But thank you again, Coach Ryan. Appreciate your time. If you're ever looking for more from us, Small Town Ball, you can check it out at Hurrdat Sports and on NEB Preps and HurrdatSports.com. All the social channels, whatever you're looking for, we will keep it small. We'll have another good one coming your way here in just a couple of days. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, Austin.